Welcome to the AW Services YouTube channel. In this video I'm going to do an oil change on my van. For anybody that hasn't ever done an oil change themselves on their own vehicle, it's pretty straightforward. So the vehicle I'm working on is a 2016 Renault Trafic Business. That's a 1.6 DCI. So you know, it's not particularly difficult. Main things you need to do are ensure your vehicle is safely jacked up, or you've got it on ramps, or you've got it on something that you deem safe to elevate the front of the vehicle. However, you need to make sure that the vehicle is also level as well. So my vehicle is on a gradient pointing downhill. I've got some Fiamma caravan leveling ramps which are rated to 5 ton, so I'm well within my safety limit on that. Non-slip rubber mats from Poundland, back wheels are chocked up, and then I can access the underbelly and remove the underbelly tray or the aerodynamic tray that's underneath plastic. Once I've done that, I can then get my oil draining pan out. I'll need to remove the oil filler cap so I can create airflow. I'll then remove the sump plug and drain the oil into a pan. And once I've done that and the sump and the drain pan is still underneath the vehicle, I'll then undo the plastic filter housing and remove and withdraw the filter, and then basically do all those steps back to front. But it always helps if you've been for a drive in your van for about 20 minutes, warmed up the engine so the viscosity of the oil is thinner and it'll run out of the actual sump a lot easier. But all of these measures are something that you should be able to do if you're competent, if you feel that it's safe to do so. This isn't a how-to, this is what I'm doing. So please don't use this video as a critical guide to oil changes, because if you're unfamiliar with vehicle mechanics or jacking up your vehicle, etc., you could have catastrophic results. So at the moment, vehicle's jacked up, handbrake's on, it's left in gear, rear wheels are chocked, bonnet's up. I'm about to now remove the underbelly tray and you'll join you back shortly. Okay, that's the underbody tray, or the aerodynamic, make you go faster, 58 mile an hour wind deflector that goes on the bottom of the vehicle. Excuse the shitty camera work. So underbody, looking under the van, and just above the camera now, you probably won't be able to see it because I haven't turned my light on, is the actual filter housing that's there. That's a plastic housing that has a 27mm square drive socket head on there. It's always good practice if you're going to do this to buy a replacement filter cap. They're only about £10.99 for most reputable vehicle factors. Don't go on Amazon, go to someone like Euro Car Parts or one of the other larger companies. So you need to undo that, and then the sump plug is located just where my finger is, and that's an 8mm square drive head. You can buy a specific spanner for that, or you can buy an assortment of oil sump plug removal tools, and they're just like 3/8 or half-inch drive socket heads with a various selection of square drive and different hex heads that you'd find on other vehicles. But that's that. So you need to, let's say, going back, reiterating, vehicle's jacked up on ramps, wheels are chocked, handbrake's on, vehicle's left in gear. I've now removed the under tray, and with my van that's off the ground by about 150-160mm, that gives me enough room to reach under the van. I wouldn't specifically work underneath any vehicle when it's jacked up or an axle stands. I'd rather go and use a friend's garage with his ramps and stand underneath safely. But for this exercise, the vehicle is off the ground high enough that I can reach the sump plug and the oil filter housing without actually getting under the vehicle, and now my body is at the nose of the vehicle under the front bumper. A very easy, straightforward job, in all honesty. You don't have to go crazy about it. Okay, for the purpose of this exercise, I've got a heavy duty waste oil container. This one is a 9 litre. This van I think is about 6.8 or 7.2 litre oil capacity, so which is absolutely fine. Drain pan plug removed. I've got a Draper Expert 27mm socket. Doesn't have to be impact rated. I wouldn't recommend using an impact gun on anything to do with oil sumps or oil changes. and I've actually got a multi-purpose key because I've used it on other vehicles. One end's got 10mm, and this one has got an 8mm for this vehicle, and this one came from, I think it's BAS, but I'll put a link to this in the video description for you as well. So oil drain pan lid is tight, so it's not going to run out when it runs in. I've got my tools ready, got a disposable cloth, got a bin bag to put under the oil catch tray, and some kitchen roll if I need it. Okay, I've drained the oil out of the sump and I've removed the filter housing. So this is the filter housing for this particular vehicle. It's unlike conventional metal canister oil filters that you'd find in normal car engines, Ford, you know, 1985 British Austin Minis with your standard metal filter. So this plastic cap, you must keep this and reuse it. On here is a rubber O-ring which sits at the very top here of this shoulder. That rubber O-ring needs to be taken off and discarded, thrown away. And if you buy a reputable oil filter like a MANN oil filter, it will also come with a replacement rubber O-ring. You're also going to need to replace the copper crush washer that's on the sump plug, and replace that with a new appropriate washer, so you create a seal. You mustn't over tighten the sump on this because it's a cast aluminium sump, I believe. So you just do it up, you know, tight, but not too tight that you crack it or strip the threads out. So clean this cap up with some degreaser, some brake cleaner, some petrol. Give it a good clean up inside and out. This is the oil filter. I've completely checked every single louver on the oil filter. There is no metal flake whatsoever in there. There's no water in my oil. So it's standard oil, which is black, which is exactly perfect and normal for a diesel engine. But I've checked every single louver and there is no metal flake in any of that. So that's good. There's no big end, bottom end bearings going or anything critical in the engine that's failing. So my van now has done 47,771 miles. Very, very low mileage van. So this is probably the original oil filter. So that's coming out, that's getting thrown away responsibly, as well as the oil is getting recycled responsibly at my local recycling centre. But yeah, just a few tips really. Oil pan, make sure you've got a tarpaulin under your oil pan, and maybe some bin bags. And the best tip I've realised, what I did years ago, when I take this particular oil filter off this van, if I get a black bag and put it over the oil filter and hold it like a drip bag underneath, so imagine the bin bag is like a giant condom that goes over this and a lot of the housing, and then once you've cracked the oil filter housing off with your ratchet, you can then hold the bin bag around the top of the housing and unscrew it and catch any oil that's remaining in the filter housing, and also you can catch any dirt that comes out straight into a bag, and then you need to throw that bin bag away in the same responsible manner as you recycle and dispose of your oil. But just to recap, don't use a spanner on this because you'll most likely crack it. Always use a proper 27mm socket. I'd recommend buying a replacement one of these before you do an oil change. They're only around £10. It's always better to have a spare than to drain your sump out. So you've then stripped all your oil out your engine. You've taken this off, or you've attempted to take it off, and you crack it and it's broken so it doesn't seal. And then you've got to somehow, if you've only got one vehicle in the household or you're single like me, you cannot get to your local motor factors to get a replacement when you need it. Me being in Devon, probably wouldn't be able to find one in any of the local places. And Amazon next day delivery on Prime. So you need to be very mindful that you've always got a spare one of these, because you cannot guarantee that that's going to come out or it's not going to crack with wear and tear and the amount of heat that cycles through it. But it's like an ABS glass force reinforced plastic anyway. So clean that out, throw the oil filter away, replace the rubber O-ring on here, insert your new filter into there, and then do your reverse. Okay, the filter I'm replacing it with is a MANN filter, probably the best filters ever made in my humble opinion. For this vehicle, 2016 Renault Trafic Business or Sport, probably the same one. Part number Hotel Uniform 6011 Zulu. And then it's got another code which you'll find on a lot of the Halford stock as well, if they've ever got any in the Halfords. 5107200309. It's got a production date on there as well, when it was made, so very recent, very new, which inspires a lot of confidence. So new filter, it's can only go in either way basically, it doesn't matter which way it goes into the housing. Comparison old versus new. And then in the box also you've got a brand new rubber O-ring to go on your cap. I would use the same principle that you would do on a standard oil filter, which is metal. Once you've put the new rubber O-ring around the shoulder of the cap, just get a bit of oil on a cloth and just wipe and moisten this O-ring up with a bit of rubber, so when you tighten up the cap it doesn't grip, twist, tear and break. And then do that up hand tight. Once you've refilled the oil, critical thing is to leave your vehicle for you need to leave your vehicle for about 10 minutes. Let the oil filter its way from the rocker cover down through the engine block down to the sump, because you've start your vehicle up straight away, there is a chance you could damage your engine because you've got no oil circulation going up to your rockers, etc. Right, the next step will be to add the new oil to your engine or your vehicle. Key things: is your sump plug replaced? Have you put the copper crush washer on the sump plug and ensure that that's tight? Have you put the rubber seal on the filter cap? Has the filter been pressed into the cap correctly and the cap has been tightened up hand tight and you've not over tightened it? So when you're putting the oil in, you'll also want to watch for leaks, because the more oil you put in, the more leaks you'll have if you have a problem. So a little incremental bit of oil, fill it up. I think it's about 6.5-7 litres in this vehicle, even though my handbook didn't even tell me, I can't remember, but I'll just fill it up and constantly check the dipstick once the vehicle is on level ground. Right, join me back, just a very important tip. With your oil change, an absolute must, and something it's imperative you must know: do not put your oil in the washer fluid reservoir. Do not put your oil in your header tank for your coolant. You'll notice that on my vehicle, as a guide only, I'm not telling you this is, because I know what it is, but you need to make sure that this is your oil filler on your van. This has an anti-spill funnel around it, and usually it says oil on there, but it shows you an oil can nowadays. Years ago it used to be 710, and a lot of people didn't know what 710 was, but 710 upside down is actually oil, for those that weren't aware. So this is my oil filler cap. This goes into the top of my rocker cover, and then the oil goes from the outside of the block down to the sump. And you'll also see that it's oil coloured inside. If you've got this and it's all white and creamy, and looks like butter that's all white, creamy and yellowy, then you'll inherently have a head gasket fault. But if your oil is normal coloured and it doesn't smell burnt, you should be absolutely fine to top your oil up. But do not put your oil in your washer fluid reservoir or your coolant header tank reservoir. It must only go in here. Okay, back under the vehicle. Just going to start filling the engine up with oil. I've just put a little bit in there, about 1 litre, and just to get under the van and monitor that you haven't got any leaks, because once you put the belly pan back on, you've only got to take it all off again, then you've got a mess that's everywhere. So filter housing on this vehicle is here. That's the plastic cap with the 27mm socket hex head on the top of it. I've wiped around that with some degreaser, some brake cleaner, and wiped that all nice and clean. I don't have any visible leaks. I've tightened that up by hand only. Do not use power tools, air guns, anything on that, because you'll smash the housing to bits. So tighten that up, hand tight. Make sure you've put the rubber O-ring on there, the new replacement one. You've oiled that as well, so it slides nicely and tightens up and doesn't snag and tear. Your oil sump plug, which is here, I've cleaned around that with some brake cleaner. I've put a brand new copper crush washer on there. I've tightened that up hand tight only. Do not use an impact gun, air gun. You will smash the sump because it's only cast. So hand tight only. Wipe around with some brake cleaner. Ensure you've got no leaks or drips. Once you're happy with that, then you can proceed to put the amazing plastic belly pan on, which is just here. And that's that for now. I'll show you some more shortly. Okay, once you've put your belly pan back on, you've tried to work out how to tuck it in under and have it over exposed in one bit. You've got 7 10mm headed like machine screws that go into captive nut clips. You might want to get some spares because they rust. If you're like me and you're quite proud in your vehicle, I chase the threads out of mine, and then I've slapped dollops of copper grease, or copper slip as it is also known. You could even use Vaseline grease. Just stick it in the nut just to protect it, and then put some copper grease on your bolts as you drive those in. Don't over tighten because you'll shear the plastic where the metal spring clips go in. And then you should have your belly pan back on your vehicle, put it on flat level ground, and then then continue to top up your oil level, checking it periodically to make sure that you're in the correct mark on your dipstick. A dipstick is an oil measuring device, not a non-intelligent, stupid, pathetic person. That's incorrect. So dipsticks for checking your oil, and you need it up to the maximum mark. Do not overfill your oil, because you otherwise have to drain it out of the engine sump, or try to extract it through the dipstick hole. If you put too much oil in, it could leak into your flywheel housing, your clutch, your oil seals could go, and you could make your engine buggered basically. But that's pretty much it for the underside of the van. Please excuse the rubbish quality of video. It's dark, I've got a head torch on and my phone's flashes on. So just talk about the ramps I'm using. I'm using Fiamma 5-ton rated motorhome ramps, which are solid ABS plastic. They're brand new. I haven't purchased them second hand on Facebook. You need to be very careful that you know the age of things like this, because they can become unstable with UV degradation. Heat in the summer, sunlight, UV can completely knacker these and they turn to powder. I would not recommend personally anybody else using these to work on a vehicle. However, they are exactly the same as the ramps that you can buy for working in the vehicles, which are made out of plastic from Machine Mart. So these are Fiamma, very reputable, Italian made. You can get a few like wheel chocks and accessories for these, like anti-slip mats. I'm using some anti-slip mats. I've got 2 rubber doormats with like grippy nodules on them, a bit like a bath shower mat. Those were £1.25 each from Poundland, and I've just put those underneath my ramps to give more traction when I'm climbing up on the ramp. It doesn't eject and spit it out. But those are the ramps. Okay, welcome back. Just as it starts to rain here, so I filled up my oil. I've checked my dipstick and pulled it out and wiped it off. Pulled it out and wiped it off. Camera should focus, but I'll try to show you. Excuse the one-handed camera work. Dipstick's clean. Putting it back in, there's the dipstick. Pull it out gently, and we are on the mark. It's actually golden, it's hard to see because it's clean oil, but that's it. So the belly pan's on, sump plugs in with the crush washer, filter housing is replaced with the rubber O-ring that's brand new, replaced with the MANN filter. Dipstick's plugged in securely. I've wiped around the oil filler cap, and I am now replacing the oil filler cap on top of the funnel bit where it sits around it. Give it a good clean off, and then what I'll do with my Brother label printer, I will put a label up here with the service date for oil change on a waterproof sticker, and I'll also write that in the back of my own service pamphlet that's in the back of my owner's manual that I made myself, with all my service intervals, which are oil changes, fluid changes. That doesn't include cam belts. Those are done via a garage, and that's also marked as well. But I hope this video helps you. It's only a guide, don't take it as gospel. If you're jacking up a vehicle, putting a vehicle up on ramps and working under it, you do so at your own risk. Knowledge is power. Make sure you've always got someone to help you if you're doing it on your own, just in case there is an accident, you're not stuck and there's someone to call for help. Responsibility of disposing of your oils, that's up to you. What you do with them, how you dispose of them is on your watch. take them to recycling centre, see if you've got any mates on Facebook that make their own diesel. Try to give it to them and get rid of it responsibly. Ensure everything's clean, put that together, put your bonnet down, your vehicle's done. So thank you very much for watching this video. Please support the channel, subscribe, help it grow. The numbers are going up by the week, which I really appreciate. All of my viewers, the UK, massive audience in America, so big shout out to my USA audience over there. All of you mean so much to me, and you help me with the growth of my channel. Press the bell icon for notifications, give it a like, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends.